All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to forms class. We're going to kick things off. We've got two forms today that definitely pending sales are becoming more and more common still. The 22Q pending sale. So that's definitely going to be something I know right up a lot of people's alley and that they're actually dealing with this right now. So let me share my screen.
Sorry, I don't understand.
I have no idea. My Siri likes to interrupt my class all the time. Maybe why she doesn't understand because she's not in forms class. She's not paying attention. All right, so got to jump right into the manual as we always do. Good morning, Quinn. Buyer's pending sale of property contingency addendum. So general comments, use this form only if buyer has, prior to this purchase and sale agreement, already entered into another agreement to sell buyer's property. So in example, buyer's property is already under contract or sale is pending. You must attach a copy of the purchase and sale agreement for the sale of buyer's property to form 22Q. I think that's the thing that sometimes people don't always do. And then do not use this form if buyer has not yet entered into an agreement to sell buyer's property, but plans to do so. Use instead buyer's sale of property contingency addendum MLS form 22B, which we did 2 months ago, right? Is that about right? Or close to there, a month and a half ago. But as you guys recall, we went over the ins and outs of 22B and when you have to actually like get the have property ready and prepared a little bit before the hand. Otherwise, you have how many days before it's got to go live? You guys remember? 5. Good job, Alberto. 5 days. So this is different. To listing brokers, this is definitely a stronger. It's a stronger offer. Why? Yes, the house is already under contract. So it's already there. Now, there's a key instructions to this that it says you must attach a copy of the purchase and sale agreement for the 22Q. Why would you want to look at that? What's important to see before you listing broker are going to sign off on this 22Q pending sale?
One would be, the closing date.
Okay.
Say the sale price,
Okay.
it could be even it could be like a low sale price, but to have enough funds for the other purchase, and then to see if it's legit that they actually have it. I feel like there's a whole bunch of reasons.
There is a lot of reasons, but I haven't heard the biggest one yet that you really look for.
It's not contingent.
Well, if you have, I mean, it is contingent. It's contingent upon it closing in order to buy your property in your listing.
But like that the other person who's buying your property's offer is also not contingent.
That's definitely something you would want to look for.
Make sure the names.
For the names. Well, yeah, those are definitely, things you would want.
They actually own that property.
Sure they own.
It's not under somebody else, like they own the title.
Not so much. Anybody in Zoom got any ideas? Sure. Nope. Crickets. So really what you want to pay attention to is how long has that contract been made? Like how long has that been going, right? Because what's the first thing you typically have to do when you get a deal together? Yeah, you got to open escrow, you got to deposit earnest money. What's the next thing that usually happens?
Sections.
Thank you. Home inspection. Where are they? Are they past that date? Has that been already agreed? Because typically home inspections are what, we usually see about 5 to 10 days is usually the range. That's usually the two numbers you almost always see in that addendum. It's almost always that. So you really have to pay attention and look at when does that, when does that first, pending sale, when is that inspection contingency done and waived and figured out? Because that's the big one. If that's not done yet, all of a sudden, maybe the people terminate, because remember, buyers can terminate for any reason at all. That's a get out of jail free card. So you've got easy access to, just to walk. So that's probably one of the biggest things you're going to look for is like, where are they in the timing of that contract? Because that's going to tell you a lot, especially, they're already past appraisal. I mean, if you know all of that, insight, that's going to make it a lot more easy to sign off and accept something like this. But it is definitely better than the 22B because you got a sale already. All right, B, you want to read, Quinn?
B, pending sale closing date. Buyer may not extend the closing date of the pending sale without seller's consent if such extension would delay buyer's closing on seller's property.
Yeah, so there's no automatic extension. You can't just extend. So if that first sale, the pending sale needs to extend, you've got to get the seller's consent. Let's see, Alberto, you want to do C?
Yeah. Failure to close sale of pending property or waive dates. If buyer fails to close the pending sale through no fault of the buyer, and buyer does not waive the contingency, the agreement terminates and the buyer is entitled to earnest.
Yeah, so 22Q pending sale protects the buyer in the event that the deal does die, right? It fails to close, and it protects their earnest money. So listing brokers, make sure that, you communicate this to the seller so they fully understand that, in the event that that deal does die, they have a right to walk away and get their earnest money back. There's been many times where brokers don't communicate this to their sellers, and then they're like, what do you mean the deal's dead? Like, we agreed to your inspection, the appraisal's been done, we're supposed to close in a week. I already moved out of my house. I'm going to keep your earnest money. It's like, where was the, clear communication from the listing broker to explain this contingency? So you got to really understand that buyer is protected if the deal failed to close. All right, waiver of contingency without having sold pending property. Gavin, want to do?
Yep. If buyer waives the contingency without having closed the pending sale, then buyer must close the sale of the property as set forth in the agreement. When buyer waives buyer's pending sale of property contingency, buyer waives all other contingencies, financing, inspection, etc., in the agreement.
Okay, so this is one of those things where if the buyer does end up waiving the sale contingency and they want to move forward and close on the deal, if they agree to do something like this, they're automatically going to be waiving everything. So it doesn't matter like what it is, financing, inspection. Pretty much what it means is that if they try to move forward without having that all done and approved, then they're pretty much giving up their earnest money. I mean, there's no other protection for them at all. How would you guys issue that notice? First of all, we got to talk about, let's see, do I want to go through the first part and then go, or? Yeah, no, let's just go through this one all the way first, and then I'll jump to the other ones. Okay, so notice of failure of sale. If the pending sale fails to close through no fault of buyer, buyer must notify seller within 2 days. Is that calendar days or business days? Why?
500.
It's 5 days or less.
Right, computation of time is throughout our contracts. So no matter what, it's 5 or less. You are going to be counting just business days, no holidays, no weekends. Assistance in filling in the blanks, the following numbers refer to the numbers on the sample form and this shown in the manual. You got purchase and sale agreement date, of course, the buyer and seller, property address, address pending sale property, insert the street address, city and state of buyer's property. So can we use these if sellers, or excuse me, if the buyers has pending sales in Arizona? What do you think? Out of state, anywhere, or out of the country?
Yes.
Yes.
One in Colorado.
Yeah. Yep. The answer is yes. So just don't forget that they still have to follow the rules and they still have to include a complete copy of their agreement of the pending sale. We had an issue, I think early last year, it was about a year ago, where our broker was wanting to accept a pending sale, a 22Q. And they didn't get the copy of the deal and they're like, okay, it says this address. So they're like trying to get the info from the buyer broker. And the buyer broker's like, well, it's another broker who's selling it. So here's their contact info. Call them. I don't know. So it's a totally different broker here who got the referral. And anyway, we get a copy of their agreement. It's like literally like, I think it's only like 5 or 6 pages, the whole thing. That's their whole agreement, everything. And we were just cracking up looking at it. And it's like, oh my goodness. So we had to break down and look at the whole contract and figure out like, where are they on their timelines? And can they walk away at any point? Can they, how does this work? So you're gonna have some situations sometimes when you're dealing with any deal where the pending sale is not here in Washington, because the laws, the rules and forms are going to be totally different. So sometimes you might have to like, I'm gonna have to review this whole thing and like look through this and try to figure out and make sure that that it's going to be okay to sign off on this. You don't want your seller to go ahead and tie their property up. I know a lot of times people are excited to get the sale, and you want to get the sale, but it may not be the wisest decision until you get the complete picture. So just make sure that if you're in that situation, that you do take the time, review it carefully. And if you need help, then come see myself, Tony, or Jim. But I want you guys to make sure you do review it yourself first. Don't just say, oh yeah, here's a contract, it's out of state, I have no idea. Come see us. And they're like, okay, well, you read through this, obviously, and they're like, no, yeah, don't do that. You guys should be looking through it, read through it, try to understand it, and then come to us with the questions. And then we will help you. All right. This space, which is rarely used, is for any other agreements concerning the pending sale contingency. Once in a while, we'll see, I'm trying to think, you might see like, buyer agrees to maybe sign off on inspection or something of, I think the last one I saw, I think it was like something for the septic. No, it was a condo. Buyer shall review the resale certificate and sign off on, within 2 days, business days on mutual. So I don't know, just shortening some timelines. You might use it for maybe specifying something from their contract, but it's going to be rare, just rare. All right. I think that's the last numbered item. So then initials and date. Obviously, sellers should initial and date the addendums or the date each person initialed, not the date on the agreement. Okay, so right here, number 5 is the buyer's property. And then this is pursuant to the purchase and sale agreement dated, whatever date the pending sale contract is dated. That means the date it's written on the top, like ours. Most real estate contracts will always have that identifier. Because it's important to see when was that offer written and issued. Pending a sale closing date, buyer may not extend. There's the same thing. There's the same information about the failure to close. And then the notice of failure to close. Buyer must give notice to seller within 2 days of learning that the pending sale has failed. Such notice must be given regardless of whether buyer chooses to proceed with this agreement. If buyer does not timely give such notice, then buyer shall be in default. So it's the same thing about them waiving, is that they're going to be in default if they don't give it within 2 days. A little while back, we had a deal that the pending sale did fail to close. They notified our broker via phone call and said, hey, this deal just died, but we have someone else who is now looking at it for the second time, and they said that they are going to write us an offer. We're going to try to hurry and get this under contract, and try to get this thing to move along. So that's good. But what issues do you see with that? Are there any issues that you would see maybe in that situation?
Yeah, they're not under contract.
Mhm.
They should be putting in contract. Not like to.
Mhm. Yeah, so you only get the 2 business days. I mean, that's it. That's all you get. I mean, if they can get it under contract, then it's like more or less you guys are going to have to probably. I would say it's probably wise to write an addendum, do a form 34, and you're gonna have to write language, for clarification purposes. The pending sale identified on 22Q line 6 is hereby amended to, new property, whatever that's new, Oh, excuse me. No, that's the same address. It's a new date. Sorry. Buyer's got to sell this property in order to buy our listing. So that verbiage would be to amend the purchase and sale pursuant to the purchase and sale agreement dated a new date. So you're amending what this new purchase sale is, and you're saying the buyers of that pending sale property are, and you would identify it that way. Now you are basically correcting, the replacement of the buyer for the new pending sale. So if you have to do that, come see us, need the language. Obviously that's rare. Sometimes it works out. Just make sure you do something, because if you leave it, we did run into an issue once where I gave you that example about the broker saying, oh, hey, we got someone else who's going to write it up. So don't worry, right? Well, that ended up not making it through. It's like a week later, they're still like, oh, hey, they were gonna do it. They can't do it yet. Oh, they're meeting with their lender. Now you're a week later, and then they're like, well, yeah, we're done. We're like, well, you didn't issue your notice, so we're gonna keep your earnest money. No, I called. We were trying to work it out. We were talking and communicating over the phone. So you guys see how that there's an issue there. So just make sure that you get something documented within the 2 business days. If they issue the notice, which we're going to get into next, because 22Q is pretty much done, but the 90U is the buyer's pending sale contingency notice. And there's 2 notices to mark. And it's the failure to close and termination. So buyer hereby gives notice of the pending sale identified in the buyer's pending sale property contingency addendum form 22Q has failed or will fail to close. This agreement shall terminate and nearest money shall be refunded to buyer. So this is like one where they know it's gonna fail and they can issue this. I kind of have a little issue with that language, you know, in here, but I understand like why the forms committee and the attorneys, you know, put it this way, because I guess, you know, if they pretty much said, hey, buyers walk in, we're not closing, we'll get the denial letter here soon, and we'll sign off on the rescission, and then they're delaying it, you know, all of a sudden it's like 5, you know, whatever. So I guess they wanted to make sure that they're saying they have language here that it will fail to close, that they can do that. So remember that, you know, to tell your seller that if we accept this offer that's got a pending sale, they can terminate, you know, if they're thinking that their sale is going to fail. So questions on that one? All right, waiver. Let's see. Alec, you want to read waiver?
Yeah, sure. Even though, sorry, I'm like actually driving right now.
If you're driving, don't try to read it.
I mean, I'm at a stoplight, so. But
No.
I think
Sorry.
someone else. I'm listening. I'm on the way.
All right. All right, Tony's got it.
All right, waiver. Even though the pending sales identify it in the buyer's pending sale property contingency addendum form 22Q has not closed. Buyer hereby elects to proceed with this agreement, waives the pending sale of the property contingency, and agrees to close the sale as provided in the agreement. Buyer understands that by waiving the pending sale of property contingency, buyer waives all remaining contingencies, including financing and inspection in the agreement.
Yeah, so there's the thing for the waiver. And it's basically stating that they're going to move forward. Now, as a buyer's broker, you're representing the buyer. You're trying to protect the buyer. The deal fails to close, but the buyer says, you know what? I think I'll be able to pull out money out of my 401k. I'm going to pull out and maybe borrow some money from my parents, and I'm still going to close. Okay, so this is what they're telling you. Would you still use this 90U as a buyer broker representing that buyer if they make that statement? You know that the pending sale falls through. So how would you do this? Because remember, if you don't issue a notice, what happens? You're in default in 2 business days, right? You got.
If does it have to be the specific form to let them know?
So this is the only form that connects to the 22Q, but we do have a blank notice, and it's like a form 34, but it's only one-sided, meaning there's only a buyer's or seller's signature. It's only one line only. So it's I'll show you guys.
Is this a John L. Scott form?
Nope, blank notice. This is just, it's completely just a blank form, right? With date. So it's to issue a notice, because there's a lot of contingencies and stuff where you will give notice. You hear those words like all the time, give notice. Well, sometimes there's situations where maybe you don't want to like issue the notice that the sale has failed, but yet buyer wants to move forward, but buyer doesn't want to remove all of his other contingencies. You see? So that's good that you thought that, like, okay, hey, maybe is that the only form you've got to use? So what I would suggest if you're in that situation is use this. Even though the pending sale, I would just copy the words And don't mark waiver, just say, even though the pending sale identified in the buyer's pending sale, a property contingency addendum form 22Q has not closed, buyer hereby elects to proceed with this agreement. And waives the pending sale of property contingency and agrees to close this sale as provided in the agreement. And that's it.
And then.
And don't use the rest of the verbiage. And you just protected your buyer and allowing them to move forward, but they're still protected. So if you're working with a savvy listing broker and they know their forms really well, I would say, no, if that's what you want to use, we're not going to sign off on, or we're not going to allow this notice to issue forward, or because we will keep your earnest money if you don't close. I would say that verbally. And I would say, if you want to do this, you're going to have to use the 90U and marking the full waiver. But how many listing brokers know the forms this, well? So you never know. You might be able to, push that through still.
With the financing contingency.
Yeah, you're protected.
The financing contingency include only weekdays, or is it weekends? As well?
How many days is it in your financing contingency? By default, 21. Is that greater than 5?
So it'd be.
You count every day, but you can't land on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday. That deadline, because that comes from our computation of time. So it's computation of time is one of those ones that if you can get that down in your career and fully understand it and know it super duper well, it will really help you big time.
And it counts the day after.
Commencing day. Following day. Commencing day is the following day. Meaning that's when the timing starts. You get mutual today, May 3rd. Commencing day means day 1 is May 4th. So always study and practice the computation of time. I would just get a calendar out and throw holidays, use ones that have holidays in there and just really try to go through it. It will seriously help you throughout your career, because that is definitely one of the top things brokers screw up. They do not understand it. One of the top questions I think I still get called on always. We got mutual on this. As soon as I hear someone say we had mutual on this date, I know that the question coming is something to do with computation of time, right, Tony? Always. Yeah. We got mutual on Sunday. I'm like, uh-oh, here comes the computation of time question. More than likely. All right, questions on that? Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to have you guys use that blank notice for that. I would want them to sign off on it so they can't say they don't understand it. So I would copy the 90U section. Right like that and put it on a 34 so we can get the seller's agreement. Because otherwise, I think maybe more than likely, you might have them go, well, there's nothing on here for us to sign off. And you might have a broker kind of like, what is this form? A 90, blank notice. They're going to be like, what is this? And where do we sign? So I'm going to change that up and have you guys do that on a 34 instead. Make sense? All right, questions about pending sale at all? 22Q, we pretty much wrapped that one up. Gonna jump to well addendums. They've got it crystal clear. big difference between the 22B. I mean, that one was like 7 pages of information we had to go through for that one. And it's a lot more complicated and definitely not as strong. All right. We are gonna hit up 22R, well, addendum to purchase sale agreement. Let's see. Bob, you want to read the first section, A?
Sure. So, use, attach this addendum to the purchase and sale agreement if the sale is conditioned on an inspection of the well or water system. However, this form only covers inspections of the well servicing the property. If buyer wants condition of the sale on the inspection of the property and its improvements in general, use inspection addendum form 35.
Yeah, so right away, this isn't a replacement for inspection for the whole house. If you want a contingency to terminate and, you know, fully inspect the property, then you're gonna use the 35 always. All right, B, let's go to B. Do you want to hit that one? Or, yeah.
Okay, B, explain it to the parties. Make sure your client understands this addendum. In particular, explain to buyer that if buyer fails to give written notice approving the inspection, buyer waives this inspection condition and will be contractually obligated to close regardless of the condition of the well or water system.
Yeah, so it's buyer, if buyer doesn't give written notice disapproving the inspection, then it's basically going to be deemed waived, you know, like on a 35. But who prepares the documents for our clients? So who's really got to make sure? You guys need to make certain that you're not missing the deadlines.
What should we know? Or do you recommend for us to know when one of our clients is interested in submitting an offer to a property that has a well?
Well, if the property is serviced by a well, or even, let's say, even septic system, you have to make certain that your addendums reflect the type of systems that service the property. Meaning, if there's a septic system, it better have a septic addendum. It does not matter if the listing broker says, yep, it's already been done, it's already inspected, it's approved, it's done, everything's uploaded. A lot of times brokers are like, oh, it's all done. Okay, I guess I don't need the septic addendum. Nope, you still have, your contract needs to show that a clear, concise direction for the buyer, that they understand that that property is served by a septic system. So there's contingencies on the septic addendum. And don't forget, there's obviously different counties, you know, that do different things for when it comes to septic systems. And that's why there's different septic addendums for different counties. So you have like the 22S, you have the 22SK King, you know, for King County, you have the 22WW for Pierce County. So you got to make sure you got the right addendum for the right county, and then make sure that you do include it. The only difference is if all the items are done, you're going to make sure that you're just putting zeros in the days, because there's no need to, you know, like one of the sections says that the buyer has a right to be there during the inspection for the septic or for the well or whatever, right? If it's done, you're gonna put 0. They're not, it's already done. They don't have that right anymore because the company's not gonna come back. So just don't fill in incorrectly. And then in the bottom of all those addendums, there's an other box, and you will write, you know, for clarification purposes, buyer acknowledges receipt of, you know, all of the septic approved inspection reports dated such and such date, and you're done. So same thing. When the property's got a well, you have to include the 22R, the well addendum. So we're gonna dive in a little bit deeper and that'll help probably clear up a lot of the stuff on what you'll do, but you're not gonna be like testing the well for the client. Don't worry. Not getting into the well. Other provisions, did we read that one yet? Gavin, you want to see, I guess?
Other provisions. The provisions of this addendum supersede any other provisions contained in the agreement that relate to wells or water systems. Therefore, if you use this form in a purchase and sale transaction, make certain that all of the provisions regarding the well or the water system are contained in this addendum.
Yeah, so if it's serviced by a well, just use this. You can't, don't write it in anything else and not skip it. That's pretty much what they're telling you. Don't forget in the 22D, remember we read that as well, just like a month ago. And we went into the property connections. So everything that it's connected to, like that is supposed to be accurate. You ever mark it and you see there, you know, maybe it says it's on sewer. And they put it in the listings on sewer, but then you find out that it's on septic, you're gonna have to correct that. And you have to make sure you got the proper addendums in the deal. Otherwise, that could be malpractice. You did not, the client is not fully aware of what their rights are when it comes to inspections and everything for the state. So you just have to make sure that those things line up, that it's accurate. There's been definitely cases where, I mean, every couple years, I see it, every couple years, without fail, we will see a property that, wait a minute, it says it's on sewer. All of a sudden, now we see that it's not connected on sewer, it's backing up and it's actually on a septic. You know, I even had one, wrote up a deal for my cousin on a house he was gonna buy and redo, and the home inspector's like, we got an issue. Like, what's wrong? He's like, come out to the middle of the backyard. We're like, okay. He goes, and he told his assistant, go in there. He goes, call me on the cell. I'm gonna tell you when to flush the toilet. And we're like, and we're walking as he's like telling his assistant to go in back in the house. We're walking out to the middle of the backyard and we're like 15, 16 feet from the house. And we're sitting there, he goes, okay, yep, okay, flush it now. We're waiting, we're standing there, we're like, what are we doing? He goes, just wait. We're watching, and you can see there's a hole in the ground, like, and there's a little piece of concrete. There's like just a small section like that big. And a little piece of concrete with a gap in it, and all of a sudden, water's flowing. He goes, sewer lines in front of the house. The toilet flush is going back here. What's that tell you? And we're like looking at each other, I got, oh no, it's on septic. He goes, yep, that's an old septic system. And then they never connected it. So the flippers, we notified the flippers and terminated, and they're like, oh, you know, that house, they took the house off the market. It took like 3 months. I don't know what they ended up doing, but they had to connect to the sewer. They had to tear out. It was a big job. Maybe. So just make sure that it's accurate. Well, documents, sellers required to deliver to buyer all documents in seller's possession associated with the well. Seller usually have documents when it pertains to wells. They should, but not always.
Especially if they've owned it for a long time.
Yeah,
Because when they got it, they weren't requirements.
yeah,
So,
or that.
yeah, particular case in Maple Valley. The owner had owned it for 40 years. And so the well had been there and it was a share well, there was no agreement, there was nothing. So, and back then there weren't any requirements to even test the water, so. There was no easement, nothing, there's nothing, so they had to redo it all so they could sell it. And actually come up with an agreement with the neighbor, because it was a share.
Shared one too at that. Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's paying.
Yeah, so it's common. I mean, you will deal with this in your career for sure. Has anyone had a sale with a well already yet?
I haven't had a sale, but I had to go do a showing for a property with a whale.
Yeah.
Well, and they were just like asking me a whole bunch of questions about like the well, and how it works. And I'm like, I was trying to like read up on it before.
Yeah.
I was like, there's pros and there's cons, because I would have to well, there's like water, there's so you have to get it inspected, and there's a lot of minerals in, all water.
Mhm.
But that's what I meant earlier with my question, like, what are things that we should know?
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, that's good that you did that and looked up the basics knowledge of a well and what's required. Yeah, I mean, you definitely are gonna wanna like kind of get the basis of the understanding like you did. That's perfect. All right, assistance in filling in the blanks. Following numbers refer to the numbers on the sample form shown in the manual. So date of the purchase sale agreement, buyer's name, seller's name, property address. Next is number 5, number of connections. So indicate the number of connections to the well in the space provided. How are you gonna find out how many connections there are? How are you guys gonna know?
Well, hopefully there's only one if it's not a shared well.
Let's hope.
It's not the case all the time.
You'd have to find it in the documents
What
Right.
documents be?
that the seller is supposed to provide to the buyer, right?
Well,
It should be
hopefully,
in there. Yeah,
you got a really good listing broker that, as soon as they go to a property and they understand that the listing's served by a well. And they know you're gonna try to sell the property, there's things that have to be done. They're gonna have it inspected, right? Buyer's supposed to have an inspection, stuff like that, but as soon as you know there's a well, you better find out from the seller, like, when's the last time it was tested? Do you have what documentation do you have? We need to see how many, are you positive how many connections there are? Oh, it's only one, hopefully you got a good listing broker, and then all those documents are already uploaded in the supplements. Because for the brokers that do that stuff, it makes it so much easier. That and it makes your buyer feel better about it, right? Because like the one that you went and showed, were there documents uploaded in the supplements for the well? Nothing. What would that have done if they were in there?
It would have just made it easier for me to be able to let the buyers know, like, hey, this is what's going on with this specific property.
Yeah,
For you guys to know, because when we were touring, right?
Yeah.
You could see in the sink and in the tub that the mineral buildup,
mhm.
and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that means they're probably not taking care of their well very well. Unintended.
No, there's a lot of times now, the new systems are really nice. They
Oh, yeah.
actually have filtration, like triple filtration system and everything, water softeners and everything.
Oh, yeah,
And you'll see a little outhouse. And you'll be
a
able to.
little well house.
Well house, yeah.
Every time I think of a well, I'm just thinking like, like a little round thing
The
and.
bucket. Yeah.
That's-
So it scared you too.
That's really how it works, actually.
And it was a septic system too.
Oh, yeah,
It really is how it works, actually. I mean, the
that,
water, there's a pump, manual pump now, but.
Yeah.
Basically, the little thing was a pump to bring the water out, so they just have to. And you have to make sure the pump is working and all that.
mhm. So that's really great, Berto, that you made that comment, because I want you guys to like hear that and understand that, because just how it made him feel uncomfortable, right? Like he's not gonna make his client feel very comfortable with the well. So that's the thing that listing brokers need to understand, is that if you would supply that information, it's actually gonna make it easier on the clients and the buyer brokers, so that they can provide it and make them feel at ease about it. If there's nothing there, and especially if the buyer brokers themselves don't quite understand it, you're pretty much could be scaring away buyers because you don't have it. So whenever you're dealing with a property that has a separate system like that, and it's not a county connection or a city connection for services for, water and sewer, and it's something that it's on its own and it's stored on that property, try to get all the documentation that you can, get, and that is only gonna make everybody else feel at ease about it. And it's easier to explain. Cause I'm bet if you would have opened up the supplements, it's like, buyer brokers, here's all of the well instructions, here's everything you've got, we've got on it, and it's already done. It's already been inspected even. Sellers don't have to do that, but when you get that, you're like, oh man, they've got it. Look at this. They've got the well reports. They've been maintaining it. There's records. Now you're totally at ease. And you're probably like, wow, this is awesome. Have we got no water bill? It's just our own. I mean, you might have depending if you got, upkeep costs or whatever, but it's nothing like for what you pay for water from the city. Definitely. All right, so let's go to the next one. So the seller represents. I skipped the 9. So well documents review period. So insert the number of days seller has to provide any well documents to buyer. Insert the number of days buyer has to give written notice disapproving the well documents. So right away, we can see that it's clear that it's important to have those documents because now there's a contingency, right? So listing brokers, get that documentation before you make that listing go live. It should be uploaded in your supplements, ready to go. Because now if you're going to want to have it to be 5 days, you get 5 days of mutual. Now the well stuff's going to be done, has to be, finished and approved then. So well inspection contingency. Alec, you want to read this one, number 4?
The agreement is conditioned on buyer approval of inspection of the well, water supply.
Oh,
Okay. The agreement is conditioned on buyer's approval of an inspection of the well and water supply system serving the property. Buyer is advised to conduct all inspections necessary or reasonable to ensure that the well and water supply is satisfactory to buyer. Such inspections may include testing of flow rate, purity standards, organic or inorganic, verification that the source is adequate and that the system meets federal, state, and or local standards, as well as other matter of concern to buyer. Any completed at buyer expense, buyer shall have the right to attend inspection. This activity shall be waived unless buyer given written notice at disapproval inspection report within 10 days of not building. After mutual acceptance of the agreement within the time period of buyer's general inspection contingency, whichever is later, if buyer gives timely written notice of disapproval, the agreement shall terminate and the earnest money shall be refunded buyer.
all right. So you got the 10-day. You got the 10-day inspection default, right? So buyers got to be able to do their inspection. They can do the tests. If the listing broker has the stuff already prepared, you're going to want this to be short because if it's already been done. Now, sometimes there can be concern where, maybe the system still doesn't look good, like the toilets are all stained and the bathtub and all the stuff stained. All of a sudden they got this one, thing, oh yeah, the inspection's been done. The buyer still has a right to do that. So, to still have it inspected. So I think, buyer brokers, you definitely are going to be able to tell if a system's been well taken care of. I mean, there's just no doubt about it because someone's going to have records. Because you're not going to just all of a sudden have, oh, this is the only one we've done. Then I'd be a little more leery, right? So you're going to have to look at the documents supplied by the seller, review it, with the buyer, and then maybe make the decision on, how long you need for your actual inspection. Does anybody know how long is a good time to get that done? What kind of timeline would you want for this?
I mean, I put 10 days, but that's just me. I get away with it.
So Alex saying 10, Gavin, you think?
And potentially longer, because they might have to send something to like a lab to get the water tested.
Ah.
So they did it in 20
Yeah.
days, maybe.
So I would say probably 15 days is probably good. You might want longer. Because you got, this you gotta take the water, go give the sample and send it into a lab. Labs can get backed up. Next thing you know, they're like 2 weeks out. So be really careful when it comes to this and you have a well, that's gonna take more time. I would probably stick with that, probably 15 days, don't you think? That's probably good, Tony.
I would definitely call the hard part's getting the well inspector out there,
Yeah.
because there aren't that many. So it's not like a regular inspector where you can just call and get, or call the next company. The other thing with wells, kind of like what Eric was saying, you can tell when a well's been well inspected and maintained. But is when that was well maintained, had records and everything, and then we tested the water and it came up with bacteria in the water. So you can use it to shower, change, do all that, but you couldn't drink it. So that's something your buyer's gonna wanna know, or they can't drink it. Or there's another filtration system that they have to get, which costs them around $6,000 in order to make the water drinkable. So don't assume, get the inspection.
Get the inspection. All right. 7.
But yeah, 15 days is reasonable, I would imagine.
So number 8 is other. See, Justin, you want to do other? Pick on you guys back there.
The space is provided for any other agreements concerning the well or water system. Because this addendum supersedes all other well and water system provisions contained in the agreement, you should include all well-related agreements in this addendum.
Yeah, so if you need an other in there, the only time you might write in others, like we talked about in the septic addendums, like in the event that a complete inspection's been performed and it's a reputable company, you got records, you can see, sometimes you're gonna run into that. In fact, I helped somebody. When was that? Probably in the fall. And they had everything. That's it. Like all of it was done, and they had all the records. And they had complete records of timely, yearly inspection that they did, because they were pretty, militant on keeping, really good records and maintaining the well. And they're like, I don't really know you're gonna go pay higher, you gotta pay for the well inspection. It's another couple $100 at least, $200 to $300 more. Do you want to call the company before we write this up and then put together an actual, deal? You want to call them and then decide? And then that's what they did. And they're like, oh yeah, they said this family's been, the whole time they've been here, they've hired us and we've done the records, or we've done the maintenance every year. Like every year we come out, we would test, we would check the flow, check everything. So you might have that situation, but it's going to be kind of rare. I don't know. There's a good number of people, but not everybody for sure.
We did that for one of the properties. The income that we got was a well. We called and we're like, we want to make sure all good. I don't know how long it's gonna take.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we go there all the time. So, but we still did it, and they're really cool. That's why I said 10.
You got to know. Yeah. You try to, get it figured out. It's, if there's no documents uploaded at all about the well, stick to my rule of thumb of probably putting 15 in there, 15 days. You just don't want to run out of time. I think I hear so many, actually a lot of times when I hear there's a question about wells and someone's in a deal, they're like, how do we extend the well contingency? I've heard that question a lot. I'm like, well, how many days did you have for your inspection? Oh, well, we put 5, or I put 7. Like, yeah, there's no way. They're not gonna get that done. It's gotta go to the labs, gotta wait on other people. So just watch the timing. All that, all right, initials and dates. Local requirements, buyer acknowledges that the water supply requirements and water use limits vary by city, county, and watershed. Buyers advised to consult with an expert regarding water supply requirements and water use limits for the property. So this is in here right away because they want to make sure that you know that you could, you know, if you're like using too much water from the well, counties and watersheds and other places could contact you if they find out, like, you know, all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, you got an acre, now you're using a bunch of the water for the well to like water, like put a farm, you know, and you know, all of a sudden they might like contact you, or you'll run the well dry because you're using way more than the water flow that allows. So there could be some situations like that once in a while. It's just, but it's rare. But, you know, that's something maybe to talk to the client, like to make sure they understand.
Because if it goes dry and then there's no public like water connection, then it's like,
That's exactly why this is in there. Exactly. I mean, yeah, no water. Got no water for your house. No showers for a while. Okay. How do we give notice? So we got a 90X form that goes with this. Buyer's notice of termination. So if you are not approving the well and you need to terminate, this is the form you have to use. So this is the 90X. This is buyer's notice of termination, well addendum. Pursuant to the well addendum form 22R, buyer hereby gives notice of disapproval of the well inspection report and elects to terminate the agreement. Buyer demands the return of the earnest money. So there's nothing for the seller to sign off on. This is within their rights. The only thing you have to make certain is that you have to stick to whatever you put in on the 22R. So the contingency, this is your deadline, just like on the 35 inspection addendum. You have to issue the termination before that deadline. So before 9 p.m. on that last day. That is not a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday. So please make sure you don't let that lapse, because if you do, it's deemed waived. Just like any other contingency in our agreements, if you guys missed your timeline. So just be really careful when it comes to the time, how much time you need to get the inspection. And again, it's all going to come down to like what's been done already and how well maintained the well is. Questions? Oh, good, crystal clear?
No.
No?
Figure it out.
Eric?
Yes, yeah.
You're wondering, how people get their water if they're like less dry, I like drainage.
Just throw it over.
They'll might have to hire and drill another well. They'll have to hire a specialist company to come out and to locate water. It's a trip. I've seen there like some old school guys come out and they got a stick. They got like this stick and it's like I was like, what in the heck? I thought like I was getting punked when I first saw this early in my career, but yeah, the guy got out of his truck, opened up this like satchel thing, unrolled this like thing. I'm like, what are you doing? Getting this tool thing, and I'm thinking like, oh, he's getting some sort of equipment. It was a stick, wood, and it's just like mostly straight and it had two handles. And he's like, okay, let's go find the water. And I'm like,
Well witching, they called it.
well witching.
Yep.
Yep. And I'm not joking. He's just like this. He's walking, and all of a sudden, like the stick's like moving down, moving it up and down, and all of a sudden it's like, up, okay, yep, right here. So this is where I'm just like, okay. And he's, takes out spray paint, sprays a thing. Come out, and they tapped in, they drilled for a new well. I was just like, okay,
What did you think?
it was a stick. I don't know.
He got punched. There's,
I'm not kidding. That's what he did. I was there. I saw it. I don't know. Yeah, well witching. So it's a real thing. Look it up.
like, I just
YouTube.
did that. And they didn't have to do that. It was a guy that had like all, like, it was like actual, like, like you find treasure and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like that. The LiDAR, the radar. Yeah. It
It
was
would
like
have to be LiDAR or something. Yeah, it's
something
gotta
like
be
that.
something
It was
different.
cool. I don't know. That's crazy. Man. They did that.
Yeah. So,
Save some money right there.
I know. I don't even remember how much it was or whatever. It's just way too long ago. But yeah, that's what they did. Did a rain dance too. All right, guys, that is forms class for today. Thank you for making it. And we will see you. Actually, I don't think there's any other forms classes this whole month because there's too many other events. Oh, yes, don't forget, bring food Friday for the potluck. We'll be putting more messages out.
I'm taking.
All right, bye, you guys. Take care.